this track and getting the fans involved. And there's such a big fan base here in Florida for Formula One. There always has been. So they needed a race here. They've done such a good job of building this race weekend up over the years, and it's in a great place. So great news that it's on the calendar for many more years. Yeah, year 4 that we come here in Miami, and Formula One has embraced it. I think we've come a long way since the first year we raced here as well, and it's a real challenge for the drivers as well. They respect this circuit, a street circuit, barriers all around. It is a tough one for them to master, particularly on a sprint weekend. So all the rookies here, Crofty, they're really up against it this time.
They certainly are. Right, first 2 years here, Max Verstappen territory, and he won from 3rd on the grid, and he won from 9th on the grid. Last year, Lando Norris and his maiden win. Are they the 2 main protagonists as we go into 2025?
Well, yeah, I think we're missing one, obviously. Oscar Piastri, you know, I think that it's going to be between those 3. But then you've also got the Ferraris. You know, we know they're good on sprint weekends for whatever reason. So that's the good thing about this track and the way that Formula One is at the moment. You can go to different tracks and certain cars work. And I think with the sprint, it definitely mixes it up. I love these weekends because they get such limited time to develop the car going into quali.
Yeah, limitations, and there is Max Verstappen, and first thing we need to say is congratulations, Max Verstappen and Kelly Piquet, on the birth of their daughter Lily just a couple of days ago. Max missed all the media engagements yesterday for obvious reasons, because he was at home with his new baby daughter and with his partner as well, getting his priorities absolutely right, and we are so thrilled for them.
It's fantastic. I mean, look, I said earlier on, whoever you are, it's a special time in life, even if you're a 4-time world champion. So, but the impressive thing for me is that compartmentalization that he can do, or is about to embark on here, having been in hospital, in the maternity ward with his wife, with Kelly yesterday, and see the birth of his daughter, and then in a blink of an eye, you're here, sitting in a Formula One car, about to go and do business back to normal. How do you do that?
Word has it, he's already been discussing things with the Red Bull pit crew. Nappy change, or diaper, if you're in the US, 2.2 seconds. Well done.
It's impressive. That is impressive. It took me a while to master that, and so a few messy occasions. But yes, fantastic. But no, I think it's great. He'll be sat in the car now, just with a smile on his face, knowing that he's got a little baby girl. It's so special. It's the best thing I ever did in my life. And forgetting the racing, because that's a job and that's a sport. But having a child, oh, it's amazing. But I think it can only be a positive for him.
Absolutely. Right, green lights in 3, 2, 1, and the session is go. Ted Kravitz, good afternoon.
Hello, Crofty. Yes, good afternoon, good evening in Europe. And yeah, quite the scene outside the Red Bull Racing garage a little early on. This is just before Max Verstappen was going to go out. And we had the old human wall, Crofty. I did think for a moment this was just a little joke from the mechanics, and they were all going to lift up their shirts, and on their belly would have been painted congratulations, each mechanic with a different word. But not, it seems. There was something they wanted to hide on the car that they were changing on it. But they both leave the Red Bull garage, Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen, with aero paint all over the car, but we understand it is only one of the floors that's available, the new floors, Crofty, that's available to Max Verstappen. It's not like this was accelerated, pushed forward, if you like, from an expected upgrade in Imola. It was always planned to have an upgrade here, an upgraded floor, but it just turned out there's only one, and so Max will be running it this weekend.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Ted. We have special guests in our commentary box as we ride on board with Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, for this first practice session. A few years ago, Mario Andretti was here talking about a new team coming into Formula One. Well, ladies and gentlemen, meet the team principal of that new team. Cadillac will be on the grid for next year. Graham Loudon, welcome, sir. Welcome back to Formula One, officially.
Well, it's good to be back, and you know, it's very nice to be here. It's very interesting looking at this free practice session as well, because it's in not too long a time this will be us out there as well, so it's a sharp reminder.
That's a really good point, actually. I was reading some quotes from Dan Tauris, who is the CEO of TWG. I mean, there's more in acronyms than you can shake a stick at here. And your big boss saying last night, and I read this on the race.com, that you're facing a race against time at Cadillac. So let's start with that. A race against time in a good or a bad way?
Well, a race against time sounds dramatic, but as everybody knows, and your viewers will know, they'll be tuning in for the first Grand Prix next year, and we have to be there. We can't turn up a week later and do the race a week behind everybody else. So, you know, we have a deadline, and again, the keen viewers amongst your audience will have seen in the garage there, they have a countdown clock in every garage that I'm aware of on the TV monitors, and it shows when the start of the session is happening. And we've got those in every room at the factories, in our multiple factories at the moment, counting down to the first Grand Prix of 2026. So there's a few days on there, but it's...
is that just in case someone's thinking of going for a coffee break? It's like, maybe not, maybe in 7 or 8 months.
I think it's to remind everybody that time tends to accelerate when you're up against a solid object, and so yeah, it's just there to remind everyone, and it'll, you know, it's a good thing as well. You know, we're in the game. We're not racing on the track yet, but we're racing in the factory.
So you found out Qatar last year, I think it was, when you found out that this was going to become a reality. It then took until February time to actually get confirmation that you were going to be on the grid with the commercial deal that was signed. How far behind or ahead of the game are you in terms of what you need to get done?
Yeah, the entry process was very thorough. I think that's probably the best.
2 seconds, Graham.
Yeah, there's just, you've left like so many tools in the cockpit. Everything's just falling apart. I have to box this up.
Yeah. See, it can even happen to the defending Constructors champions that things get left there that shouldn't. So
yeah, it's a difficult game.
Everything's falling apart. I'm not sure what he means by that. Does he mean in general, or does he mean in the car?
I think he just means, I want to get on with this. And come on, guys, give me a break here. Stop dropping spanners into the cockpit, if indeed that's what it is. A brand new crash helmet for Lando Norris, by the way, for this weekend. Looks like a big disco glitter ball. Absolutely love it.
I feel that the seat height is quite high somehow.
Copy that.
Which amazes me that it changes from one race to a next. I didn't think these Formula 1 seats came with adjustments, to be honest.
They're not really, well, they're not supposed to. If it's the same seat as he's had before, maybe he just hasn't been in the car for a while, and he's stretched.
Yeah.
He's stretched out. He's been hanging upside down somewhere like a bat, maybe.
Ted Kravitz, down to you. Lando Norris is in the pits.
Where's me torch, Crofty? That's what a mechanic will be saying. I'm sure I had a torch. It's one of these LED torches. You know, the newfangled ones don't have a bulb in it anymore. It's just an LED strip. And so one of the mechanics has left a torch in the cockpit of the number 4 McLaren. And Lando was pretty annoyed about it, actually. He came in, already had it in his hand, chucked it out the side, and then was very keen to get on again, which he did. So, if any of you are always wondering, what have I done with that torch? You've left it in your Formula 1 car. Always the last place you look, isn't it?
Thank you, Ted, for shining some lights on the situation for us. Bad puns are us. Graham, back to you. Where are you at? Do you have a chassis for next year?
Yes, actually we do. We had the first 2026 chassis delivered into our factory just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And so that's a prototype chassis. It was fully machined. It has a roll hoop on. You know, it looks like the big part of a Formula 1 car. And we use them.
Steering is exceptionally heavy.
Copy that on the steering. He had that here last year, but only one direction. Now he's got it both directions. Sorry, carry on.
So we'll use that chassis to prove the various tests. You know, there's a huge amount of tests, and it's a new regulation set for 26, so the tests are even more onerous. And you know, I think what you've witnessed here already, you know, we're 6 races into the 25 season, but it's a complicated game, and there's a lot of things happening all at once. A lot of things can go wrong, can change. So pulling a team together, it's what I would call a proper job.
I'm going to come at this from a driver's point of view. Simulations, correlation. How's all that going? It's difficult, obviously, because you don't have the reality yet. Yeah, I guess.
You know, normally you have a correlation triangle, for want of a better word. You know, you have wind tunnel and the experimental aero program, and then you have CFD as well on the aero side, and you have driver in the loop simulator, but you also have the real car. And that's the bit that we're missing at the moment. So We've had drivers in the simulator now for, well, probably the thick end of a year, simulating the car, and so that side of it's going really well. Aero program's very well advanced, so the bit that we're missing is what you see on the track now, but we're getting there.
We'll come to that in a moment. Lando Norris winding his way up for the start of the first flying lap.
What's going on with the car? It feels so different.
And George Russell not exactly happy in the cockpit of his Mercedes, even though he has the fastest time so far by 1/100th of a second from Max Verstappen. Race control and the race director has noted Lando Norris and McLaren for releasing the car in an unsafe condition because there was a torch in it. If that is found to be the case, and the stewards are going to investigate after the session, that's probably a team fine coming McLaren's way. Graham Loudon is with us, team principal of the Cadillac Formula One team. You've just hinted about drivers. The big speculation is Sergio Perez is in Miami, you're in Miami, the two sides are going to come together and it's going to be love at first contract signing.
Yes, now I've stood within 1 foot of Jensen. That'll be the next headline. But of course, he already drives for Cadillac.
Yeah. And Crofty. Oh no, maybe not.
I've done 3 laps. It's enough.
Yeah, I've learned a lot of things in pulling this team together in the last few years. But the one thing I have learned is everyone wants to drive the Cadillac. That's for sure.
But do you know in your mind who you want?
Yeah, we've got a fairly good idea, and we've narrowed it down quite a bit. But we're out of sync with the rest of the teams at the moment. We were kind of effectively kept out of the last round of driver discussions because we didn't have an entry, and so we're in a slightly unusual position. But it also means there's a lot less competitive tension, and we can take a little bit of time. And quite obviously, the #1 priority for us as a team is to have something for the driver to drive.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the management bandwidth is focused.
So on that subject, last time I came to visit you at Silverstone, I think you had 4 units, and there was another one that you were opening up as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got a base in America that you're building too. So how is all that coming together?
The team headquarters is at Fishers on the outskirts of Indianapolis. We're building a 400,000 square foot facility there. There's Mario. 400,000 square foot facility there, and it's super impressive. It's a big investment into North America by a Formula One team, and it, in my view, it provides a kind of focal point as well for fans, for Formula One fans in the US. And then, as you say, we have a hub in the UK, which is at Silverstone. And then we also have facilities down in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Wow.
So it's kind of, Indianapolis is a home of IndyCar, Charlotte's home of NASCAR, and then Silverstone is we all see it as the home of Formula One.
So it's an Anglo-American conglomerate, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh. Nico Hülkenberg just outbraking himself a little bit into the first corner. Max Verstappen with the fastest time by half a second from Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, and that is Kimi Antonelli, who I think is just making a bit of space for himself before he starts another flying lap. What have been the tough bits so far? What are the hurdles that you've had to overcome in getting to the stage where you're at now, right?
Well, it's really time, I guess. The #1 thing about building a team is the people. So we want to get the best people, and that's what teams are all, really all about. And it's where I've spent most of my time in motor racing and got most enjoyment from is building teams. And we've said it before, Formula One's the greatest team game in the world, and it's there's kind of 1,000 people on every side, all shapes and sizes, and in all locations, and with all different skill sets, and every single one has to be working at the absolute maximum, and that's how you're successful. And we've got huge respect for the competition. All these teams out there have been doing this for a long time, so we don't underestimate the task. But yeah, that's really the key thing: bringing together the people, and we want to build the best Formula One team that we can.
And everyone probably thinks you're testing non-stop on track, but obviously you don't have a mule because everything's new to you guys.
Yes.
Every Formula One team is testing 2-year-old cars very often. Whereas, when do you think your first test with the car will be? Will it be the first test next year, a shakedown early 2026?
Yeah, certainly with the 26 car, yes. But we do intend to go testing with some form of single-seat race car later this year, because we want the mechanics to be to be working. You know, we've seen firsthand just what can happen in a live race environment, and everyone has to be, you know, right on their A game. And so we'll be pounding around a circuit somewhere with something at some stage, just getting the engineers working well and getting the drivers integrated.
He might fancy a race drive next year.
He's a very good race driver.
Very good race driver indeed. Mario Andretti we saw, and you mentioned him.
He's too old.
But he is a champion. You could have a world champion driver for you.
Yeah,
Jackie Stewart drove a Formula One car the other day in Bahrain. You know, get Mario back.
Mario's a legend. You know, the last American to win Formula One World Championship in 1978. You know, Jensen knows what it's like to win a World Championship. Not many people have done it. It's really, really, really difficult. And you know, Mario did it in a time when it was extremely dangerous. You know, we're very blessed at the moment to have standards where, you know, we've learned so much from the past. For me, he's a legend. You know, I love talking to him. He calls me up every so often. I call him up. We talk about all sorts of different things, including drivers and the team. You know, you've got to give Mario a lot of respect. He's a world champion. I don't need to say much more.
Time spent with Mario Andretti has never wasted time. Trust me on that. Ted Kravitz, let's just head down to you.
Just an update from Mercedes. They're obviously keeping George Russell out there. The lap time is good, but they do need to understand what this weird feeling he has with the car. But I don't think it's anything to do with an upgrade. They do have an upgrade here, Mercedes. It's a new rear wing flap with increased, or rather decreased camber, to lessen off some of the drag effects on Miami's long straight. So they'll try and get that Russell feeling a little bit more comfortable in due course. Crofty, just one question, if I could, to Graham Loudon. When everybody was talking, Graham, about Cadillac, the second American team coming in to Formula One, it was kind of assumed wisdom that you'd be after employing an American driver. Is that still the case? And secondly, how fast do you think you'll be when you start next year?
Well, Ted, in terms, when it comes to American driver, I think everyone would love to see an American driver in an American team, with an American engine at some stage. But also, this is a world championship. We have to select everybody on merit, and as we've said before, there's nothing stopping a girl or boy with an American passport driving for an American Formula One team. We'll select on merit. If the driver happens to be an American, then I think it's something that the fans would really like. But this is a world championship. We've got to respect it, and we want to be as competitive as we can. So we choose everyone in the team on merit.
Graham, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great to see you back again. And I hope that whatever happens on and off track, you get to enjoy it, and welcome back to the F1 paddock again.
Thanks, it's nice to be back.
It is. Graham Loudon, Cadillac team principal. He was team boss at Manor and Marussia once upon a time, but now he's spearheading the Cadillac effort for 2026. And the first of our two special guests in this practice session. The next, well, we'll tell you about in a couple of moments. But at the moment, with 15 minutes gone, George Russell has the fastest time from Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and Alex Albon, half a second between the top five. Anthony Davidson has been watching the action on the track while we've been talking to Graham Loudon. George Russell not happy, but has pace. Kimi Antonelli, his teammate, seems to have a bit of pace, but sadly not for the whole lap.
No, Crofty, I mean, I'm just watching the end of Yuki Tsunoda's first proper go at it as well, and he actually runs very wide, just as I say that, through turn 17. We've seen so many times before on this circuit a very difficult braking zone to get right. So Yuki should have been higher up than that P9 he's just gone at the moment, Crofty. But yeah, Russell, haven't heard any more complaints from him about the steering of the car. It does fluctuate different circuits that you go to, so you can change a few settings in the cars to help increase the downforce sometimes, depending on which speed range you're at, and that can be one of the byproducts there. So maybe that's what's going on with Russell. But yeah, I'm impressed as well with Max straight at it, and right up there at the top of the timesheets. Ocon there just climbing over the curbs awkwardly, and the car not liking that one.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Ant. Yeah, getting really out of shape. This is a track where it's a street circuit, and we're going to get evolution throughout. But the evolution wasn't as great last year as we might have thought. This year, though, we've got cooler temperatures on the track, and I'm expecting the times to be a bit faster as a result.
Yeah, and the softer tyres as well, don't forget, from last year. So that's going to create more marbles. Softer compound always gives you more marbles, and obviously the better grip that comes with it as well. But generally speaking, softer compound, they don't enjoy running on a green track. By that I mean it's still quite dusty here. It is a temporary circuit, temporary street track, and the softer compounds get ripped apart easier on a green track.
On the subject of those softer compounds, JB, the C4, which is the medium for this year, which should be the favoured tyre for at least one of the stints, and in the case of the Racing Bulls, 2 of the stints, if it's a 2-stop race, because they've already used the hard tyres in this session. No one used the C4 in either of the last 2 Miami Grand Prix to score points with. They weren't exactly a tyre that people liked then.
No, no, and when it comes to obviously, as Matt said, with the circuit gripping up, obviously it always goes towards the softer tyre, and yeah, if you put it on too early, it opens up the tyre, you get graining. But so it's going to come to them, and it's just believing in the tyre that is going to come to them into sprint qualifying.
Charles Leclerc out on the track, back straight for Charles Leclerc currently. No one ahead of him to disturb him under braking, or as he goes through the last few corners. Let's see where the Ferrari stacks up. Isaac Hadjar goes 7th fastest on the hard tyre, just ahead of Charles Leclerc, who crosses the line and goes 6th fastest, 8/10 off George Russell, with Norris and Verstappen and Piastri back in the pits, along with Ocon and Tsunoda, Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. Sprint race in China was Lewis Hamilton's territory. We'll talk about him in a moment, but this is George Russell.
Yeah, wide through turn 12, and the problem is that puts you on the wrong line through 13, and the chicane that follows after that comes at you very quickly. So it's all about picking the right line through turn 12. You've got to compromise that corner, and you want to avoid that bollard as...
the big moment.
It certainly was.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got to avoid that bollard because Max Verstappen knows that all too well, doesn't he?
Cost him a race, didn't it, last year?
The problem is you get on that apex curve there, turn 15, and you slide.
Welcome back to Miami. First practice ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. This is George Russell on the track a few moments ago, finding Jenson Button that this is not the easiest part of the track to stay on the track.
It's tricky, but he controlled that so well. The problem is there through 14, you get oversteer, and then you find yourself on top of the curb in 15, and you just see that wall getting ever so close.
It certainly was for George Russell. Talking of big moments, it is not often in the commentary box that we welcome a BAFTA award winner, ladies and gentlemen, to our coverage. And a BAFTA award winner who has been trained at RADA, at Central School, growing up in Thurles, and by Bernie Collins. And now comes into the commentary box knowing everything about Formula One. The F1 movie is out, June the 27th. Kerry Condon is in the movie, and she's with us now. Hi.
Hello, thanks for having me. I don't know everything about F1.
Well, Bernie Collins told me she told you everything, and now you do know everything about F1.
I mean, my physics is desperate, I'm not going to lie. I learned what I needed to learn, which is air passing the car. I was like, that's basically what we're talking about when we're building a car, how quickly the air passes the car.
Love it. Can we give you a bit of direction?
Do a little turn around.
Because you've got to turn to face the camera.
We're all going to be like a little trio.
Yeah, it's sweet, isn't it?
I love it. We've got an actress in the box, and we have to get her to turn to face the camera. That should have been your job for Jensen.
It's my day off!
You don't get a day off in Formula One. Not ever. And how was it playing Kate, the strategy engineer, the love interest, etc.
It was
in the movie?
really, I was incredible because it was 2 years and we got to go to so many tracks, Abu Dhabi, Vegas. I mean, I'd be here all day trying to say all the tracks we went to. But it was more fun just getting access to all the pit wall during the races and everything.
Were you filming during the racing?
And they'd be lining up behind us, literally like right behind us. But that made me a bit nervous. I was really afraid of distracting them.
Gets a bit hot as well.
Well, the boys would tease me on the cans about like which driver was right behind me, just so I'd blush and everyone would think it was funny.
So were you an F1 fan? Before Jerry Bruckheimer or Joseph Kaczynski came to you and said, we want you in our film, were you an F1 fan?
I wasn't. No, I'll be honest, I wasn't. But I was a car fan.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, my dad's a haulage contractor, so I knew a lot about cars and like admired sports cars, knew the car that I wanted to have. But I didn't know about F1. I had to learn a lot about it. Yeah, but that's the best bit of my job, is kind of learning things I wouldn't have learned about.
And that's where, sorry, Jen, where Bernie Collins, who is our friendly strategy engineer, took you under her wing and said, right, this is how I do my job.
Exactly. And kind of, in fairness to her, she gave it to me in increments because it's overwhelming. Like, I'm not an engineer, and I don't have to build a car. So she kind of took me through it scene by scene in terms of wind tunnel. When I had a scene in the wind tunnel, what is a wind tunnel? Why are you at the wind tunnel? She gave it to me in baby steps, because otherwise I would have been like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But Ruth Buscombe helped me also.
Excellent.
Yeah, she was really helpful. There was a lot of chicks on the job that helped me.
Did you ever wish that you got to get in the car? Did you ever think, oh, I'd love to drive the car, that would be cool?
I don't know about driving an F1 car, because I don't want to be so arrogant as to think that I could drive an F1 car. Did I want to drive a car and race against the boys? Yes.
Crofty's driven an F1 car, so it proves that anyone can do it.
Has he?
Yeah, I'm the least arrogant man here, trust me.
Oh, yes, yes.
And now, was it hard?
Oh, no. Piece of cake.
Easy.
Come on.
See, you got
There's
the rough...
no way you drove one.
Seriously, 3 laps.
Did you?
Yeah. And not just me, Ted Kravitz, our pit lane reporter, has also driven an F1 car.
Maybe I should have driven the bloody
so easy.
thing.
You had to be an engineer. It's way harder.
Don't say that. The lads will kill you.
I love the fact 2 years you had a chance to actually be in an F1 car, 2 years you turned it down. So unless there's a sequel, there's no chance you're going to get it.
I mean, I have driven a different car on a track and learned how to drift and things like that. Oh. But the F1 car, no. And also I wanted to go under the radar. I didn't want to be getting attention here. I wanted to not be distracting people. We were a guest of F1, and so I didn't want to be like, can I get a hot lap? Do you know, I was like, sit down and do your job.
Well, you get a hot lap now because you're here for the publicity.
I don't know, I might get sick.
Well, JB will take you around.
You'll be all right.
I need to take motion sickness tablets unless
Really?
I'm driving. Yeah, because otherwise I don't know what's going to happen.
I think if you go really fast, you don't get sick. That's the way it works. It's when you go slowly and you're wallowing a little bit.
You'll
be fine. It's just about keeping your head up.
Well, is it?
Because it falls over quite a lot when people aren't used to the GeForce.
God.
All right, you two, carry on with your own conversation in a moment. We need to go down to Ted. There's
Shit.
work.
Hang on, what's going
now,
on?
Kerry, we are live on air. You can't say that, right?
No.
Because it's not. This is a PG-rated show. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, for the language there. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Yeah, so the technical director from Apex Grand Prix will recognise what's going on here. It's a camber change, actually, to the front of Max Verstappen's car in the front suspension. So just not feeling the bite that he wants from the front axle, and it's quite an involved change, actually. It involves just sort of disconnecting bits of the suspension arm and then putting it back to making that camber change. There might be an associated ride height change in there as well. But yeah, straight off the plane, night sleep in the car with the new floor, and Max is already making setup changes in the only practice session, of course, he's got to do it. But yeah, Crofty, as you say, you are extremely self-effacing. You wouldn't admit to Kerry that we are fellow BAFTA winners, would we? But we haven't. The Oscar nomination has escaped us so far.
Yeah, we haven't.
Kerry also has over us.
It's a very good point, Ted. We are also BAFTA winners, our whole team for Abu Dhabi 2021. Where do you keep your BAFTA?
In my bathroom? Is that bad?
No, BAFTA's in the toilet. That's where they've got to be put.
It's lovely. It looks nice there. Well, I don't think there's a problem.
You're always going to see it, aren't you? A few times a day.
I'm reliably informed.
Okay, let's not get into it, but yeah.
I'm reliably informed. Dame Judi Dench had to have more bathrooms put in her house because she won even more BAFTAs.
How many she win? We don't know.
Loads. And anyway, tell me about this film, because obviously I've seen bits because I'm in it, and Martin's in it, and we're typecast as the commentators. So I've seen bits of what you do, but I haven't seen the plot line. So tell us where you fit into this whole thing.
So it's a team, an underdog team in the beginning, and they're kind of, I was going to say the S word, but I won't.
Don't do that, yeah.
They're not a very good team.
Super Aguri, is that what you meant?
Yeah. He used to drive for them. Good point.
Not a good team, and basically our team owner, Javier Bardem, knows Brad Pitt from years ago. They used to do Formula 1 years ago, and he goes and finds him because Brad Pitt now is in America just racing in Daytona and random things, and he says, come back, help us. Our team isn't winning and we need you to help. And there is the underdog story, and then all the amazing driving and the comedy and the romance.
Have you seen the finished article yet?
No, not yet. And I'm going to wait till it's totally finished because I don't want to, step on anyone's toes. I want to wait till he's ready to show it to me.
How did the drivers get on with it? So Brad was racing. How did he seem when he got out of the car? Was he enjoying it? Was it fun, or?
He loved it. He loved it more than acting with me, I think. I was getting jealous. I was like, all right, my scene now. I know he loved it, yeah, and so did Damson. But a lot of the stunt guys would have gone to F1 if they hadn't run out of money, or, you know, that story.
Is that what they told you?
Well, come on, it's true. They were great, the stunt guys. So they all, you know, they taught Brad a lot, and it was just, I'm sure it was really enjoyable. He loved it, yeah, he was always really happy.
And it's incredible how they've stitched in the Apex GP footage that was filmed at the track in with real-life racing as well. So when you come and see this film, you are immersing yourself in a proper Formula One race, which is fab.
I was just going to ask, do you watch Formula One now in a different light, having done it so intently in the acting side? Do you watch it now with a different knowledge, a different viewpoint?
I look at the drivers every so often, but honestly, it just kind of makes me sad. I'm not working on the movie anymore, so I had to step away a little bit. Yeah, even hearing the noise today, I was like, oh, it's all over.
It's not all over. You're now welcome back anytime you want to come back.
Guys, thanks.
And come into our commentary box as well. Because honestly, you've brought life and a breath of fresh air into this box for the last 10 minutes or so. What's next for you, though? If it's not F1, what are you working on?
Usually, it drives me mad when people ask me that, because I'm like, is F1 not enough?
He does that.
I have to top F1, do I? But I don't mind you asking.
So it's a big film,
the next one for me is a movie. After F1, there'll be another movie called Train Dreams, and that'll be on Netflix, and I believe around November. Very different, more of a spiritual, smaller movie, but I like doing everything. I like kind of, being a character actress.
Love it. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Just listen to the music. The album's out this weekend as well.
Yes, apparently so. I'm going to go have a listen.
Ed Sheeran, Don Toliver, they've all got it, and I'll see you at the premiere.
Hey, I hope so, and thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. F1 the Movie, out June the 27th. More chat about that in the weeks that come, and I think there's a new trailer coming out as well in a few weeks, which is absolutely epic. We are on board with Oscar Piastri, and I promise for the next half an hour we will definitely concentrate on what's going on the track. We've not got any soft tyre running as yet, medium and hard compounds, and we will stay with this lap for the next 50 seconds or so, and we see where Lando Norris is a bit faster than Oscar Piastri in terms of the track dominance, but that can all change around. Oscar Piastri, though, full of confidence at the moment, and why shouldn't he be, given he's leading the World Championship?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of confidence through there, 14-15, using all the curve. That apex curve there in 16 is not normally a positive to take back, because it bounces you out wide, but traction of the McLaren seems very good. And now he's just getting his eye in, really, for the soft tyre run, which I'm guessing is probably going to be next.
I hope they've watered the grass verges if the car's sparking a lot on that one, or they might just need to raise the ride height just a touch. Around the final big braking zone on this track at turn 17, Piastri now gets his foot down and will cross the line to slot in where? Fourth fastest overall, behind Carlos Sainz, Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Soft tyre qualifying simulations to come in a few moments' time. Right, moving on. That is Oscar Piastri getting really bouncy over the curbs through the chicane. Just shows you some of the forces that go through an F1 car when you just take a little bit too much curb. Anthony Davidson has made his way from race control back to the commentary position here. Who's impressed you in the last 10 minutes or so while Jensen and I were talking acting?
Well, they all have, really, Crofty, because this is a tough challenge for them with this single practice session before coming into the sprint qualifying in the next one. So the key point here is not making mistakes. You daren't run out of track time before qualifying. And yeah, I think seeing the two Mercedes up there, that's a surprise for me. I wasn't sure what their race pace or any pace would be like around this track, but particularly Kimi Antonelli. Never been here before, one of the rookies here, obviously. So I think when he went to Suzuka, that was a new track for him as well. I listened to him in a press conference yesterday, in a team press conference, saying to some journalists that he felt like his approach in Suzuka wasn't right because he kind of tiptoed his way into it too much. And he said, looking back at it, I should have pushed harder sooner because that put me on the back foot when it came to qualifying, particularly as you got through the knockout round. So he said it only just started clicking, therefore, because he had been a bit more tentative until the final round of qualifying. And he wished he could have just hit the ground running a bit harder, taken a few more risks earlier. So maybe that's his approach here. He doesn't want to, obviously, overstep it, particularly on a track like this, because it will bite you. But I feel like, well, he's certainly impressed me to be up there. For what it's worth at the moment, second fastest to George.
Yeah, and, you know, this isn't a Suzuka in terms of how technical it is and difficult to learn, but it's still not easy. You know, you've got a very, very fast first section, as you said, with not a lot of runoff, and then you've got that very slow section, 14-15, which is very tricky not to overdrive.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's impressive.
Speaking with Bono, his engineer, yesterday, and he was saying it's really, he's very good technically, so slower speed corners like this, it's not an issue for him. He's got a good handle, a good feel of the car in all the slow speed. There's, I'd say, the majority of this lap, he'll be in more of his comfort zone. I think it's one of these things, modern day F1 cars, gents, you know more than anyone how much you have to trust it at high speed with all the downforce they have.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting just seeing Charles Leclerc going through 14-15 there. He's using curves, but the car seems to be very calm, very forgiving through there.
Unlike last year's, where he spun, didn't he, on the curb that you mentioned before in turn 16, and that really pivoted him around too much back then. So maybe it's something that they knew they had to work on before coming back here. And it's all part of the driver's responsibility, isn't it, to say in debriefs every time the weaknesses of a car, what you'd like to improve for future races.
And Charles has already said that at the moment the car's a little more pointy, a bit more on the nose, which is not necessarily something he wants, but it is the best way to get the best out of the car. So he's having to adapt his driving style to go with it.
See how, here we go.
Welcome back to Miami. Isaac Hadjar in the all-pink Racing Bulls for this weekend. And as liveries go, we love the all-pink Racing Bulls, just running a touch wide there and having to back off. And we've seen Charles Leclerc go off in qualifying and hit the barriers and cause a red flag at that particular corner. That is, by the way, livery of the week. Absolutely love it. Crash helmet of the week on Lando Norris's McLaren.
And you love a crash helmet change.
Yeah, well, I do when they look like that, Jensen. I also like Alex Albon's orange.
Yes.
Like orange as in the
literally
fruit.
orange.
Yeah, literally orange as in the fruit.
Apparently it is pitted as well.
Yeah.
There's got a texture to it.
It is so lifelike, you can even spot it trackside. And talking of which, is Martin Brundle.
I am indeed. I'm down at turn 4 of the 19, anti-clockwise circuit, 1 and 9 in the championship. And actually, it's the 5th fastest high speed of any circuit through the year as well, in terms of the top speed. But my goodness, they're carrying some speed through here. This is turn 4. It's about 150 to 160 miles per hour, 250 kilometers per hour through there. The only driver really riding the curb hard is Yuki Tsunoda on the inside of the corner there, as Oscar Piastri just throws his McLaren through there. Absolutely on rails, it looked like, not bothering with the inside curve. So we'll see if Tsunoda comes through there again. He likes to just hook a wheel. It's almost like Monaco, but you know, I think they've created what is a massive car park, about 6.5 square miles, this Hard Rock Stadium complex, and they've somehow wound this 19-corner circuit into it, and they carry huge amounts of speed. Charles Leclerc there. So into 5 is quite interesting. Again, you just listen to the cars. You can hear that one, the Williams go past there. It's just fluttering. It's just the engines are really lean, not to waste fuel, and the drivers are just waiting into 5 until they feel the grip, feel the confidence to nail it one more time. But they're arriving so fast as Lando Norris goes through there too. And it's quite an unusual sound when the cars are on part throttle. And then Max Verstappen came through here looking like he had to get back to change a nappy anytime soon with the new baby, because he was in such a hurry when he came through here. But a really lovely sweeping part of an interesting racetrack, and you can see the drivers that have got instant confidence and are really on it. Back to you, Crofty.
Thank you ever so much indeed, Martin. While we were trackside with you, getting a great angle on what's been happening on the track, this was happening a lot further on. We're on board with Lando Norris. Spot the Haas in the distance, a slow-moving Haas on the racing line, and watch it from off-board as well. Oh, yeah, JB, that could have been nasty.
So, yeah, inexcusable. Just inexcusable, really. You can't be meandering semi on the racing line. And, I mean, it was unfortunate they both went the same way. But the reason why Lando went that way is because he thought, well, you're clearly not getting off the racing line.
And at the last minute as well. Zach Brown, I'm sure you were wincing on the pit wall when you saw that particular incident.
Yeah, that wasn't ideal, but we made it through all right.
Hey, Zach, it's Jensen.
Hey, Jensen.
Watching the cars out on track, they look good, but the curb riding looks quite aggressive around here for you guys. Are you running the car very stiff?
Yeah, no, the curbs definitely look aggressive. So we're working on that a little bit here, and now just looking to see a handful of laps here to see what a little bit of race pace looks like.
Zach, Anthony here. So what's the plan for this session then? I assume focusing on a few long runs, getting a handle on the car now, and then put the set of softs on towards the end for qualifying focus?
Yep, I think that's exactly what everyone's doing right now. So I'd expect in about 10 minutes or so, you'll probably see some soft tires start to go on some cars.
It's a hot old day out there, Zach. I hope you're keeping hydrated. You got your water, you got your water bottle handy with your tyre water that you're drinking today?
Tastes great.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about the tyre water drinks bottle. Is this a little playful dig at some of those accusing you of playing tricks with your tyres?
That might have something to do with it. Just having a little bit of fun here Friday morning.
Whose idea was that then? Yours, Andreas?
No, Andreas is way too serious for this stuff, so that's my job.
And more importantly, this has been going on since what, Brazil last year? That people are accusing you of keeping your tyres a bit too cool with some water?
Yeah, there's been a team that's has that theory, but it's a pretty big stretch. I don't think it would be very wise to do. So hey, we're just focused on ourselves.
Yeah, and shed a bit of light on what happened with the torch in the cockpit. Is that just one of those things?
Yeah, just a little mistake there, a little silly, a little embarrassing, but all good.
Yeah, at least Lando found it, and it didn't cause any problems. Zach, we'll speak to you a little later. Keep hydrated. We were talking to Kerry when the tyre water thing came up. We thought we'd save that exchange for when Zach was with us. But you guys have been involved with the sharp end in Formula One for many, many years. These accusations that you're up to something, running something you shouldn't, double diffuser, whatever, has been happening pretty much since May the 13th, 1950.
Yeah, that was a little aggressive across the curb.
That's what you were talking about, wasn't it,
yeah.
Gentlemen? The way it rides the curb or doesn't ride the curb, I think could be a bit of a concern for them moving forward. In, well, only this one practice session, they've got a lot of work to do in that area, I think.
And it's night and day when you compare it to the Ferrari. Not saying that the Ferrari's quick, but it seems very much better over the curbs.
Only driver that's been out in soft tyres so far is Nico Hülkenberg, and he's still down in 19th at the moment. Now we've gone a step softer. Is there a bit of a worry that the C5 is not going to hold up properly for the whole lap in terms of performance?
I think, yeah, the drivers might have to manage it slightly when they come to the particularly the third sector. So, but let's see what the temperatures do later on in qualifying. But I'm glad they're running a softer compound here this time. We don't want to see one-stoppers. We want to see difference in tyre age between the cars, particularly on race day.
My God, it's fully on the racing line.
At least they didn't move.
Yeah.
Exactly, but this is all an indication to me that drivers are having to go very slowly to get that temperature back. So it's a warning sign, and perhaps alludes to what you were saying, Crofty, in that you will, or probably will have to manage the tyres even on one lap. Not for their wear, of course, but just losing that edge, the performance, that tack from the tyre you get with the new.
on the subject of we don't want stoppers all the time, I mean, we don't. There is a move afoot to try and help that by increasing the pit lane speed limits at certain tracks. Singapore, Zandvoort, where else? Jeddah, where they're going to widen the pit lane so that it can go from 60 to 80 kilometers an hour, and therefore your time penalty for stopping once again is not as much. Yeah. Seems like an absolutely sensible idea to me.
I mean, it's still it feels quick when you're in a pit crew, when you're waiting for the car to go, when you're the front jack man and he's coming along at 80 kilometers an hour or 50 miles an hour. That's pretty quick. Yeah. You know, when you stand in front of a car on the road, you'd be pretty scared of it coming towards you. So I don't know, it's 60k for a reason, right, in the pit lane. But I'm sure when we raced in F1 it was 80.
Yeah, some circuits were 80.
And Monaco was 60.
Yeah, Monaco was 60. Yeah. Always been 60.
The trouble is there are some pit lanes that are so narrow they have to be 60. To be fair, it's the Sauber new livery for this weekend with a few little speckles of green.
Green, I like it.
The pick. I mean, it's nice. It's nicer, Ted, but it's not full pink spec as we admired the Racing Bull yesterday and thought that this was a livery that needed to stay.
Yes, all the Miami madness of different colours, but it's a nice palette, isn't it? As kind of the guy who feels it in the pits on these 60 kph limits, I've always thought that it was a little bit too slow. I know, bearing in mind, Crofty, you know, safety first and all of that, but 80 kph is standard for most of the ones, and all the really tight pit lanes. Melbourne used to be, but then they widened it, so it's gone back up to 80. I think it's about right. I think all the teams have got together with the FIA and have said, look, we're pretty well drilled now. Nobody tries to do something crazy like if there's a safety car, and although that is a point, maybe Jensen, Anthony, you could sort of expand on that. If there is a safety car and you have to stack, and it is a very tight pit lane like Monaco, maybe it is better to stay at 60 kph, but I think with the others, it's a sensible move to put it back up to 80 kph.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ted. Let's go trackside once again, shall we? Martin Brundle has made his way round to turn 8. Come in, Martin.
I have indeed. It's the never-ending turn 7 and turn 8, the right front tyre killer. And then you're asking an awful lot of a Formula 1 car. We'll wait for another to come round in terms of, here comes the Mercedes of Antonelli. You climb the curb on the exit, so a lot of power transmitting through. So obviously they're just rear-wheel drive, these cars. They hit the curb, they've got to then start turning right and accelerating down to the next chicane, and it's a long way down there actually as well. So a really challenging part of the track, where we saw Leclerc crash last year as Lando Norris nails the throttle, taking less curb through the exit. The Ferrari there was wagging its tail hard, and Oscar Piastri taking all of the curb. So we've just seen 4 cars go through there on completely different lines, actually, as to what they're looking for, how well they were able to take 7 and 8. Minimum speed around 90 miles an hour, 150 kilometers per hour. And this is the technical nature of the circuit. This is where they're asking an awful lot of the car. Back to you, Crofty.
Thanks, Martin. We'll see you after the session with Simon and Danica Jensen in the paddock, and Christian Horner joining us as well. George Russell saying the wind has picked up. I've not really noticed it being that strong, the wind here, but coming from Jeddah to Miami, where Jeddah it was blowing.
It was definitely stronger last year in the FP1 session, where you had the tailwind down into turn 17. That made the braking zone really tricky for all the drivers. But yeah, it's not quite as bad as that. But even in slow speed corners, you will feel the effects of the wind. And actually, looking up at the trees there, you can see it is a bit blustery. But I think it's not as bad as it was last year.
I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone on the soft, because I think we're going to get a very different read with some cars to others. You know, it's a tough one here. You got the first sector that's so fast, puts a lot of load into the tyre, a lot of heat, but also with a softer compound, it moves around a little bit more, which takes away a bit of confidence for the driver through here. And then you get to the slower section when the tyres are already red hot. So some cars can deal with that better than others, and I think we'll see a bit of a mix-up.
You need to lean on them here, though, don't you? Through 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
It's a really intimidating part of the track. Even doing it in the simulator, it's intimidating. You hold your breath and you just send the car into that turn 4, the first left-hander, brake slightly for the next right, where you have to take a lot of curb. the trust you have to have in the car is immensely high, and you know at any moment it can just swap ends. It is a big challenge to get through there cleanly every time, but it's also a section of the track where you can make up an awful lot of time as well.
75 different circuit patterns they had and designed for this, simulated 36 of them before they finally decided on the final circuit to wind its way around the Hard Rock Stadium. 75 different variations.
It's impressive.
I think they were really stuck with that, the final bit, well, turn 16, where you've just seen Hulkenberg go through with a tight chicane.
Yeah.
You got the roads that go over the top, and it's all angled. Yeah, they can't move those. And I think that was the real limitation for them. The rest of the track, I think they've done a pretty good job with, but they were compromised with that section.
I like it. I mean, it's so different and it's so awkward that it causes some mistakes.
It's a circuit where it's very hard to get into a rhythm,
Yeah.
flow. It doesn't really flow. It's not a Suzuka, it's not a Silverstone or a Spa. You get a brief moment of that through turn 4, 5, 6, the bit I was just talking about before. You think, oh, here we go, this is left, right, a high speed, and then it's separated sporadically with these really tight, annoying off-camber corners with big curves, and you have to be very patient with the car.
A little bit like Austin, to be fair, though. That's the same, but not as extreme.
It's like Austin with the walls, yeah.
With walls, yeah, that's the problem, yeah.
32 on-track passes after lap 1 last year as well. So for a street circuit, there's also chances for overtakes that we see. Soft tyres. We're getting more soft tyre runners coming out now, including this man here, Fernando Alonso, who, believe it or not, started on the front row 2 years ago here and finished on the podium. And if he could just get into the top 10, I think that would be a brilliant weekend in Miami for him and for Aston Martin. But wow, that was waggling away something else.
Yeah, a bit of over-rotation from the car as he turned into turn 4. And just at the end of past the apex, the rear let go. And then that makes the change of direction into 5 really, like, the balance is off. It's very awkward there from the car. So, yeah, he's pushed it. Like I said, it's a part of the track. You have to push it. And the car just overstepped. Judging, or not judging, but anticipating where the grip's going to come from when you slap a new set of tyres on, that's part of the real skill of an F1 driver.
And the thing with the soft tyre, it's more of a gradual feeling in terms of when it goes. Yeah,
too wide and missed the apex there.
But you know what I mean? Because it's a softer tyre, you feel like you're floating a little bit on the tyre. It's not gripping in that high-speed corner. So it's gradual, so you can feel it coming. It's just not a nice feeling.
Fernando Alonso pointless in the opening 5 rounds for the first time since the first 7 races of the 2017 season when he was driving for McLaren. And where's this lap going to end up? Carlos Sainz is out on the soft tyres as well. Alonso crosses the line now and goes 8th fastest. So only, 0.06 of a second between himself and Nico Hulkenberg. And that, sadly, is a comparison you have to make with Aston Martin at the moment, because that's where they are.
Well, you just have to look down to see where his teammate is, P19 at the moment. So let's see what Stroll can do. He's on his outlap, but still on the medium tyres. We look at Sainz.
I was going to say, Carlos Sainz, who has finished top 5 in the last 2 years and the podium the year before that. You think, well, he's gone to Williams now, so there's no chance of a top 5. But is there a chance of a top 5? Because this looks like a nice little car.
Starting to find his feet, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get. P1 for now. Not his best third sectors. I'm not sure what happened
looked
there.
like he backed off.
Before the line.
On the last corner, the left-hander, or the second to last corner, it looked like he came a little bit easy out the corner there. Didn't give it full beans.
Here is the orange of Alex Albon. Told you couldn't miss that particular crash helmet. Kimi Antonelli is the car in front of him, and Antonelli just starting a new flying lap as Albon crosses the line behind his teammate with a 1:27.9.
That would have hindered him a little bit there. I mean, he obviously got the toe, which would have given him probably a tenth and a half, but he lost more than that.
He's been up, has Alex Albon, in a plane in the last couple of days. The Blue Angels, nothing to do with Charlie's Angels. These are not crime fighters. These are just amazing aeroplanes. And well, James Vowles was there up in the sky as well, and I'm led to believe, we've got a feature coming up on this, one of James Vowles and Alex Albon was feeling a lot worse than the other by the end. I'm not saying who was feeling the worst. But the one person who wouldn't have felt anything was Ted Kravitz, because he's a pilot. He's used to these extreme daring do's at high altitude. As I think Oscar Piastri touches the wall, Ted.
Just check the right side tyres, a little bit off the wall.
Little brush, Ted.
Yeah, but as I know from a day with the Royal Air Force, you do need your G trousers, your inflatable trousers, and I'm not sure Alex Albon had them, so it would have been pretty difficult for him. But anyway, down at Ferrari, we heard from Lewis earlier saying that we just tinker with the car and oftentimes make it worse. He's done less tinkering with it in this practice session, Crofty, than Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's gone out on a new set of soft tyres. Watch out for him in about 30 seconds' time, winding up for a lap, having made a change to the front suspension and the rear suspension. Hamilton's just finishing a planned change to the rear suspension, and then we'll see what he's got. But Hamilton making noticeably fewer changes to his Ferrari than Leclerc.
Max Verstappen on track.
Looking really strong. Yeah, it's a good amount of grip and balance that he needed through turns 7 and 8. Still don't know why they call it 7 and 8. For me, it's just one corner, but there you go. It gets to the end of the second, coming up to the end of the second sector. Through 12, 13 he goes, climbs over the curbs of turn 14, 15. The rear legs go just on the exit, though, on power out of 15. The tyres now starting to overheat slightly. Not the fastest middle sector, but yeah, has lost a little bit of time there compared to Sainz even.
Did he push too hard too soon?
Possibly. I mean, it was the front looked really strong through 7, didn't it, as he turned in? But then when he got to sort of 14, it was quite a lot of understeer in the car, as you can see now when he's picking up the throttle.
A 1:27.96 for Isaac Hadjar took him 3rd fastest just a couple of moments ago. Max Verstappen puts in a 1:27.5. He had the fastest time this time last year. We are a second faster than that currently, which doesn't surprise me, because I think the track temperature might be a little lower, and certainly the air temperature a little cooler as well. Gianpiero Lambiase, head of racing and race engineer, basically Max's right-hand man at the track, and you hear him on the radio quite often with him. Yuki Tsunoda has gone 6th fastest. Pierre Hamelin, who you know from the school run, and...
Yeah, our daughters are in the same class, if you're wondering. Yeah, Pierre.
But exactly the right man for Isaac Hadjar to have as his right-hand man as well.
Absolutely, and yeah, none of us really knew what to expect with Isaac Hadjar this year, and Melbourne came along, and we all thought, oh, you know, a big error straight away. Is it going to be a season of that? And but he's been able to pick himself up remarkably from that first embarrassing moment.
And you can see a feature with him and Rachel Brooks tomorrow in the build-up to the sprint. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri, multiple sprint victories. Is he a candidate for this weekend? Obviously, and that's a decent time there for sprint qualifying, with sprint qualifying in mind a bit later. A 1:27.1 goes ahead by 3.5 tenths of Charles Leclerc.
Wow, purple in every sector. Yeah, he hasn't got an issue of keeping the tyres towards the end of the lap, has he?
No, well, that's an interesting point as well, because this is going to be a big smile on Estella's face as well. Might have given the game away. But, yeah, everybody was expecting McLaren to be strong on this circuit. They have been traditionally as well in the past. And a circuit where, if you're going to need to look after the temperatures of the tyres, this is the one where, or one of the ones of the season where it's going to be paramount. So Norris already 3.5 tenths down, though, in Sector 1. I wonder what happened there for him. Can he bring it back at the end of this lap?
Did you see the amount of sparking through the high-speed corners when it's laterally loaded?
Yeah, George Russell was saying that as well.
Yeah, he was saying it about the Mercedes or about the McLaren?
About the Mercedes.
Okay.
Too wide through turn 11 for Lando. Had to dip for a wheel or two over the curb on the exit. Not the ideal line.
See, the back end sliding as well through there. But to be honest, Lando Norris has just put in the fastest middle sector. And that is Ollie Behrman. Now, he has hit the wall, I think. How hard, I'm not quite sure, but we've got a red flag. And that is the end of this session. With 4.5 minutes to go, I don't think that we're going to get any more running in. And you can see the scuff marks on the right-hand side.
Yeah, he's facing the wrong way in turn 12.
Yeah. So how has that happened? Ollie Behrman, who started the season with those crashes, of course, in Australia, has picked up and scored some impressive finishes and points finishes since then. But, you know, we said it right at the start. 6 rookies, and they've all got a really big job this weekend on a track they've never driven on before.
Yeah, so obviously Lando's lap wasn't completed because of this red flag. He had just passed this section where Behrman was behind him on track, and yeah, I mentioned that Lando had gone wide in turn 11, not on the ideal line for turn 12. I wonder if the similar kind of things happened to Ollie Behrman there.
Well, we'll get a replay in a couple of moments, I'm sure.
Here we go then.
On the run down towards the heavy braking zone, turn 10.
Wide on the
yeah,
entry.
a little bit wide there, and then on the power. Oh, it's one of those horrible lazy spins where it's kind of pathetically goes round and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Such is the inertia of these heavy cars these days.
And because he's offline, he's probably got a lot of dirt on his tyres. Oh, hit quite hard, didn't
Yeah.
Oh, man. Sorry.
It's okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just... Sorry.
I was looking at that, immediately thinking, well, thank heavens, no big damage. But I'm with you, JB.
But when you heard it,
it
is
quite
more
a
the
bang,
sound.
wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Front right suspension and gearbox, rear, I guess.
Yeah.
Rear suspension and gearbox.
That's the bit that will worry me the most.
Yeah.
And it's a side impact as well, and it just sends a shockwave through.
If anyone's going to do it, it would have been one of the rookies at this track, and it is so incredibly tough to get right. But I'm surprised actually that fewer drivers have made mistakes like that in this intense session.
Can I say I'm also surprised that the likes of George Russell weren't out there a bit sooner doing their soft tyre run. Lewis Hamilton, who hasn't got his soft tyre run in
Lewis did
either.
the first sector only.
Yeah.
And then the red flag.
Lando Norris could have gone a bit earlier. I got the feeling Norris and Piastri would have been about a tenth and a half apart by the time Lando finishes lapping it. It kind of smacked to me with that first sector. His tyres weren't quite in the right window, because as the lap went on, it got significantly faster.
We didn't see it. Maybe he was actually purposely taking it a bit easier.
Possibly.
And then that was going to come good for him later on. So you might be onto something here, Crofty.
It might have been Lando's choice, or it might have been the team. Say, you know, Oscar, you give it the beans from turn 1, and Lando take it a little easier to see what happens to the tyres.
Having seen Max push a lot harder in the first sector and then lose it as the lap went on. I mean, the outlier of that is Oscar Piastri, who matched Max Verstappen in the first sector and then continued to get faster throughout it. And that's a good target lap, 1:27.1 from Oscar Piastri. The Williams were right up there. We're not going to get out again for any meaningful laps. They'll try and send the cars out for a practice start on the grid if they can.
The only thing I would say with that, Crofty, is that Piastri's lap looked really clean.
Yeah.
Particularly the sector 2. But Lando's one, despite being a bit scruffy and offline in turn 11, actually gained time on his teammate. That's the thing that interests me there with that at the end of that session. In a way, I'm glad we didn't get to find out how it unfolded, because there's still a question mark there for qualifying.
There's no way they can send the cars out to do a practice start when the Haas is still by the side of the track. So it says session stops and the clock ticks down, because obviously we have support racing and a schedule throughout the weekend. F1 Academy weekend as well, which you'll see live on Sky Sports F1. Looking forward to that. And yeah, you'll have done a couple of those and you just feel a bit helpless, don't you?
Yeah, it's such a well, it looks like it's at a slow speed, but I'm sure it doesn't feel like it when you hit the wall. But yeah, offline there, tyres dirty, entered into the right-hander, touched the curb on entry just in a different angle, and that's unsettled the rear.
And there's the marshals with a double wave yellows straight away to warn Esteban Ocon behind that his teammate had hit the wall. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that for the session. We've ticked to 1:30, and the checkered flag will be waving somewhere as Ollie Behrman wends his way back to the paddock again. No surprises that it was Oscar Piastri out in front, but there might be a few surprises further back that we just didn't see evolve into a full lap. And that was sprint qualifying to come later. It's absolutely fine by me.
Exactly. In many ways, the less they learn, the more entertaining it is for us. Frustration for most of the grid here, though, with what's happened, the timing of that red flag. I think he'll be off of most people's Christmas lists for Christmas cards at the end of the year for that mistake.
Talking of off, there's a big TV in the paddock with your name on it. You've got to go to the Sky Pad.
I have indeed. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Good session.
Cheers.
See you later.
He likes that big TV. What are you looking at there?
I was looking at those fancy tyres on the...
on the tractor?
On the, yeah. What is it called? It's not a tractor, is it?
It's not, but you're from Somerset, so I just have to tractor.
Tractor me, darling. See you later, Ant.
Cheers, Ant. Go ahead. Ant is now trying to find his way out of the commentary box.
Can they?
It's taken him 5 goes. Right, sprint to come then. Cars in parc fermé for qualifying and the sprint, and then they're out of parc fermé to try and put right what they might need to for qualifying and for the race. That's practice done with. They did get their laps in at Williams. Did Carlos Sainz back off at the end of his flying lap?
I don't know, but the good thing is for these guys that have got a lap in, they're a bit calmer going into qualifying. They know what the car did. They can work on setup further. For the other guys that didn't even get a lap in on the soft tyre, it's very difficult to understand what happens to that balance through the lap, so they can't preempt it going into qualifying.
He's on his bike and off to the hospitality units, which are quite away from the garages, to be honest. The hospitality units and team units are all stationed in the middle of the Hard Rock Stadium and surrounding the pitch, and the garages probably about 100 yards away. So you can't walk 100 yards here without having to stop for autographs every 5 seconds.
These guys have a tough life, these guys. Yeah, I remember.
You do remember.
Yes. When you look back on it, you think, oh, wow, I was so lucky. Everyone did everything for me. All I had to do was drive a racing car.
Drive a racing car, stop, smile, and say hi. There's Charles Leclerc, second fastest. He managed to get his lap in and making more changes during that session in terms of setup than his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Ted Kravitz down in the pits reporting that one through. Lance Stroll slowest, but he didn't get his full lap in on the soft tyres. 2.2 seconds separating him and Oscar Piastri. Would have been less, I'm sure, if he'd have got that time in. We are 16 miles north of downtown Miami, hence you can see all the skyscrapers in the distance and the sea, the Atlantic Ocean behind that. It is a really impressive facility here with the practice pitches down to your left. And for Haas, a lot of conversations, including Esteban Ocon being investigated by the stewards for impeding Lando Norris. It was a clear impeding, but it's to what extent do the stewards say, no, we either need to penalise the driver or the team for that one?
Well, you're as one, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
You know, you win and you lose together, so you got to take it. But, yeah, whether it was the driver's fault or the engineer's fault and not telling him there was a car coming. I mean, he has mirrors on the car, and he did look in them, but it was just a little bit too late before he realised the car was closing in at such a high speed.
And it was quite a big closing speed. There's the speed difference around there. It'd be about 200 miles an hour, I'd imagine, that Lando Norris was doing, and Esteban Ocon significantly slower than that, around about 30-40 miles an hour. Jensen, thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
Been great to have you on the commentary box. Great to see you back this year as well. Oscar Piastri leads the World Championship and led the first and final practice session with it. 3.5 tenths between himself and Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen, two-time winner here, and one of only 3 drivers to win multiple sprint races, along with Oscar Piastri and Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen was third fastest ahead of Sainz and Albon. Isaac Hadjar, Russell, Tsunoda, Antonelli and Alonso into the top 10, and a lot of drivers behind the top 10 not getting their flying lap in on the soft compound tyre. Lando Norris had one more sector to go when the red flag came out. Lewis Hamilton had a couple of sectors to go as well. We go all the way down to Lance Stroll. Let's see what the order is after sprint qualifying. That's the next F1 action on the track today.